Candace, you might.
Oh, yeah. Everybody wants to hear your news.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome and thank you for coming to our lecture and our talk. I say our, I mean Art's. This is Art Benjamin, and I think most everybody knows him, but you may not know all of his credentials. He is a professor extraordinaire at the Harvey Mudd College, which is considered to have one of the finest math departments in the country. And Harvey is a math teacher there for how long?
It's my 30th year.
He is also a TED talker and does so on math magic and considers himself a math magician, which is an extraordinary thing that you can look up on YouTube and watch the YouTube on him. I watched it twice. It's just that entertaining and informational. He is on the board of directors of the USBGF, our Backgammon Federation. He is a very strong open player, and in this tournament is currently 5-0. So he carries a lot of credentials, and it's wonderful to have him here. Thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Candace. Thank you, everyone. Nice turnout. Yes, that's great. Just low enough the lights so that people can't fall asleep. I'm watching you. Okay. All right. So, well, thank you all for coming. This is everyone here and everyone watching it online. This is a culmination of some mental shortcuts that I apply in my games and that I think will be helpful to a lot of people. I think there should be something in this talk for everyone, whether you're a beginning player or a very experienced player. So let me roughly go over what I'm going to cover. I'm going to start with the basics of counting. How many ways can you dance? How many ways can you enter? How many ways can you make points? Hitting single shots, double shots, triple shots. I would call that as part of the basic package that people should be definitely familiar with. Then we'll talk about everything after that. I think you're going to find some new information. How to quickly count numbers that escape. You know, how many ways can you roll a 7 or higher instantly? What about hitting from the bar? It's one thing to count shots, but it's a little more complicated when one of your checkers is on the bar. There's a very elegant formula that you'll come away with today. Counting pips. I'll give you shortcuts for counting pips faster. And finally, maybe the most exotic idea is this notion of a colorless pip count. So anyway, hopefully something in here for everyone. So let's start. And the professor and me has to explain things in using a table here. When we roll 2 dice, we all know there are 36 equally likely outcomes. You could imagine having a green die with 6 possibilities, a red die with 6 possibilities, and these 36 X's all have the same probability. All right? These are the totals that you can get, at least the Monopoly totals that you can get when rolling 2 dice. And we'll come back to that later. So let's start with an easy question. How often do you dance on a 3-point board? And of course the answer is way too often. Exactly. Right? But as I hope everyone knows here, let's say you're on the bar against a 6, 3, and 1. How many of your 36 numbers will dance? 9, right? And there it is. When the green die is a 1, 3, or 6, when the red die is a 1, 3, or 6, there are 9 out of 36 possibilities for dancing. So you'll dance 25% of the time, even though it seems like more. In general, the number of ways to dance on an n-point board would be n squared. So 3 squared for a 3-point board, 4 squared, 16 for a 4-point board, and so on. And then, therefore, the probability of entering is 1 minus the probability of dancing, right? Or the total number of entering numbers is 36 minus the number of dancing numbers. So if you dance 9 times on a 3-point board, you'll come in 27 times out of 36, 75% on a 3-point board. Okay. The same idea comes into play when we're looking at how many ways can you create a point, making a point, right? So here, white wants to make the 5-point. white can make it with combinations of 1s, 3s, 5s, and 6s. So the number of rolls that make the 5 point should be approximately what?
4 squared.
4 squared, 16, because if you roll a combinations, if the green die is 1, 3, 5, or 6, and the red die is a 1, 3, 5, or 6, then most of those numbers, almost all the numbers, except maybe for doubles, are going to make that 5 point. So it's approximately 16, right? Combinations of 1s, 3s, 5s, and 6. You have to adjust for doubles. Does double 1 really make it? Yes. Does double 3? Yes. Double 5 and double 6s don't make that point. On the other hand, double 4s, if you choose to do so, can make that point. So we had 16 minus 2 plus 1, 15 ways. But over the board, you just look at it and say, all right, I'm going to make that point about 16 times, right? Could be a little less if some doubles miss. It could be a little more if some doubles that you weren't expecting gain. But, you know, you don't need that much precision. You just say, I'm going to make this almost half the time. Numbers worth memorizing, right, as should be part of every new backgammon player's mathematical toolkit. 11, 20, and 27. The number of ways to hit a single direct shot, right? Like you have to roll an ace. How many of your 36 numbers have an ace? There are 11 ways. So to get if you have a single direct shot, the number of ways of hitting is 11 plus indirects or combinations. A double direct shot, 20 plus indirects. A triple shot, 27 plus indirects. Now, the math professor in me insists on explaining where these numbers come from, and I think if we understand where they come from, they become easier to remember and use. So where does that 11 come from, right? Why should a single direct shot be 11? I'll give you three quick reasons, all right? Reason number 1, just count them, right? Don't do anything fancy. The table's got 36 numbers, 11 of them have an ace, okay? That's reason 1. Reason 2, you could say, well, there were 6 dice rolls where the green die had a 1, and there were 6 dice rolls where the red die has a 1. 6 plus 6 is 12, but the double ones was counted twice. So we have to subtract it because it was double counted, and 6 plus 6 minus 1 is 11. That's reason number 2. Reason number 3 is take the strategy of counting the opposite problem, right? How many dice rolls don't have 1s in it? Well, that's like playing with 5-sided dice, right? Where you've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on your green, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for your red. That's 5 squared, 25 numbers that don't have an ace. Therefore, 36 minus 25, 11 numbers do have an ace. Okay, so 3 good reasons to remember where we get 11. Right? So the probability of rolling an ace is 11 out of 36, just a hair over 30%. And of course, for the same reason, there are 11 rolls that contain a 2, 11 rolls that contain a 3, a 4, a 5, and a 6. Okay. So how many ways, let's take a simple position, how many ways can black hit white here? We're basically asking how many ways can black hit this white checker. The checker over there would be among those hit here anyway. So we're saying how many ways can black roll a 4? Either a direct 4 or a combination 4. Well, let's see. We start off with the 11. Right? There are 11 with a 4 on the dice. Plus, we have numbers like 3, 1. And by the way, I'll just say an obvious thing. The 3, 1 and the 1, 3, right, those appear twice. So you've got a 3, 1 here and a 1, 3 there. But double 2s, a doubles number, only appears once. So if I've got my 11 and I add 1, 3, I'm adding 2 for that, and then 1 extra for the double 2. By the way, this looks like a 4, doesn't it, right? It was a kind of a coincidence. But so there's 14 ways, plus what else? The double ones, right, can also hit 4 away. Not that you necessarily would, but there it is. So that's 15 shots. So white can hit black 15 times out of 36. I put a little asterisk because maybe you wouldn't actually hit there, but you could. Okay. Okay, so yeah, so 15 shots out of 36. Okay, let's numbers worth memorizing. All right, you're going to be looking at direct shots in every single game that you play, so it's worth knowing without having to calculate for every number. Like there are 11 ways to roll an ace. How many ways to get something that's 2 away? Well, it's 12 because you've got the 11 directs plus the double aces. That's not an 11. That's my double aces. There are 14 ways to hit something that's 3 away. That's the 11 plus the 2-1, which counts twice, and the double 1, which counts once, and so on. But this chart, just knowing, there are 15 ways to roll a 4 and 15 ways to roll a 5. There's 17 ways to hit something that's 6 away, and then once they become indirect, then the numbers go down precipitously. Okay, so those numbers are worth memorizing, and I think most of the people in this room have these in their toolkit. Now let's move on to double shots. All right, so a double shot is 20 numbers plus indirects. Again, why? So for example, how many ways if you were aiming at a checker that was 2 away and 4 away, right? So you can hit with 2s and 4s. Then there's 20, right? You just count them. Or you could do the indirect method. You could say, look, we've got 12 ways horizontally, we've got 12 ways vertically, and there are 4 numbers that appear in the intersection. So 12 plus 12 minus 4 is 20. And the third reason is to ask the complement problem, how many rolls don't have a 2 or a 4 on them? And you say, well, it's like working with 4-sided dice, where the green die is 1, 3, 5, or 6, and the red die is 1, 3, 5, or 6. So there's 16 numbers that don't contain a 2 or a 4. Therefore, 36 minus 16, 20 numbers that do contain a 2 or a 4. So if the shots are 2 away and 4 away, you get 20 immediately plus 3 combinations. What are those combinations? 3, 1, which is the same as 1, 3. And double ones. Okay, so for a total of 23 shots in that case. Now, wouldn't it be nice? I mean, most of us know how many ways to hit a number that's 1 away, 2 away, 3, 4, 5, or 6 away, because we use those all the time. Let me ask you a question. How many in this room have memorized the combinations, that would know right away that 2 away and 4 away has 23, or 6 away, 4 away has 27. How many people know know those numbers? Okay, just a couple. When I gave this talk in Michigan, there was one person in the room, and I'm going to now make this calculation immensely easier for you. All right, so the number of double direct shots. All right, first of all, here's the chart. Okay, now I know you're saying, I don't want to memorize this chart. Right? I understand that. But I'm going to give you some tips that you're all going to walk out of this room, and in your games today, you are going to use this information. First of all, notice that the number is at least 20, right? That's like 1 away and 2 away, no combinations. Going as high as 28 when you're 6 away, 5 away. Okay, so all the numbers are in the 20s, and I've written over here what the combination shots were, just to be extra careful that we counted them all. And I want you to notice some interesting facts about this table. Okay, so first of all, if you only remember one of these combinations, the one I recommend remembering is with 6 away and 1 away. 6 and 1, there are 24 ways of hitting. That's one that you see a lot, right? Your opponent is holding the bar point against your midpoint and 8 point. The opponent is squeezed off the bar point, and now you've got 6s and 1s attacking that checker. So you should know right away that there are 24, 2 dozen rolls. Now my mnemonic for that, I'm going to give you a few little mnemonics here, is with 6 and 1, did you ever hear the expression 6 of one, half dozen of the other? Okay, so with 6 and 1, you have 2 dozen. Okay, so 6 and 1, 2 dozen. By the way, the 2 dozen number, 24, only shows up in 2 other places, and that's with 6 and 2 and 4 and 3. And yes, 6 times 2 is a dozen, and 4 times 3 is a dozen. Okay, so for those three, and those are the only dozens. So 6 and 2, 4 and 3, and of course the 6 and 1, those are the numbers that give you 24 shots. Okay? What else is interesting to note? As you would expect, you get the most, if you have two shooters, you're going to have the most shots when they're farthest away, 6 and 5, right? 28 shots. What's a surprise, what was a surprise to me when I started learning backgammon, is that the 6 and 3 is actually tied for first. It does better than the 6 and 4, which is a little unintuitive. You'd think 6 and 4 being farther away, there'd be more combinations. But no, 6 and 3 is actually tied for first. You get the 28 with that. And then that's an important footnote. Okay, now what else? So here, as I was creating this table, and I was trying to create mnemonics for things, I noticed something amazing. To me, it's amazing. Maybe is when you look at all of the big numbers, and these are the ones that have the most combinations, okay? Except for the 6 and 3, which is that anomaly that's tied for first, you can get the total number of combinations using what I call the rule of 17, where you just take 17 plus the numbers in your combinations. So for example, for a 6 and 5, it's 17 plus 6 plus 5, which is 28. How's that for easy, right? A 5 and your shooter's 5 away, 4 away. You don't have to add, you don't have to do 20 and count all those combinations. It's 17 plus 9. If it was a 5 away, 4 away, it's 17 plus 9, right? 26, right? So for all of the big ones, except for the 6-3, you just take 17 and add. For the small ones, you take 16 and add. Yeah, it's that easy. And the ones in between, the ones in the middle, I don't know if you'll find this helpful or not, but, whoops, Ben, we lost the, something, okay, there, oh crap. Hang on 1 minute here. Ben! Get Ben. Because yesterday, when this happened, and last night when we were practicing, and I think he had to do a quick reboot. So let's take a moment here.
This is cool. So let's hit his laptop with a sledgehammer.
Is this available over YouTube? Or
so this is going on YouTube. This is going. Maybe it's being streamed right now, but we'll have a link to it. We'll put it on the USBGF.
Did you?
I've not done any other than we woke up the computer. The screen fell asleep.
Oh, okay.
And then.
How do you change it from to stop projecting?
Oh,
Is it Option
okay.
D, or?
I'll hit a switch. Okay.
And then just start projecting.
Yeah, give it a second. Okay. What?
Make it so it only shows on this and not on here. I thought that's what you did last night.
I didn't. I just went from here, and I'll hit it. See if we get lucky there. No, I think we may have rebooted.
I may have just unplugged it. I thought you was done. You know, on Windows, you can just there's a shortcut to make it stop projecting. I thought that's what you had done.
I did not. Technical difficulties. 1 moment, please. Come on.
Then you gotta apply it. Then you remember. Okay, I think we're good now because it did to this. Yeah.
Great.
And it won't go to sleep again.
It won't.
Oh, I'm asking you. This going to sleep, right?
That went to sleep, and that's what caused the problem.
Okay.
Or something went. One of those things.
It wasn't one of these. These don't sleep.
Okay.
So.
All right. Stay within earshot, please.
Yeah, I'll be. Well, I'm going to be playing probably later.
All right. Okay. Now, okay, so where I left off was we have, for the high combinations, you take 17 plus pips. For the low combinations, we take 16 plus pips. And in the middle, again, if you want to remember this, for the for numbers like 2, 4, and 2, 5, you get 23 shots with 2, 4, and 2, 5. And my little mnemonic for that is 23 for 24 and 25. I call it the Michael Jordan rule. 23 for 24 and 25. And it's the only place that 23 shows up is with 24 and 25. And I just find that useful. Okay, but if you want to only take away one idea from these slides, this is it. I call it the rule of 17, okay, which is for every number on this table except for the 6-3. Remember I said the 6-3 is an anomaly. It's tied for first. If you just take 17 plus pips, you either have it exactly or you're high by 1. That's it. So if you don't care about the exact precision, whether you have 23 shots or 24 shots, just take 17 and add pips, and you will be, and you're definitely on the money for the high ones, and it's probably 1 high for the low ones, okay? So easy to remember. That's the rule of 17. And I've never seen that in print before.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Okay, now let's talk about escaping, okay? Let's go to Monopoly dice, where doubles aren't all that special. And we see the totals you can get, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 12. Notice that the totals occur on stripes, on the diagonal. So we got 1, 2, 3 numbers, 4 numbers, 5 numbers. There's 6 ways to roll a 7. Then it goes down, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right here on the table, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right? How do you take advantage of this? By the way, we talked earlier about square numbers, right? 3 squared, 4 squared, 5 squared. And you know why they're called square numbers? 3 squared is 9 because you could create a 3 by 3 square with 9 dots in it. Create a 4 by 4 square with 16 dots in it. The numbers that you get by adding 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, mathematicians call these triangular numbers because they can form a triangle. Okay, so the 10 is the 4th triangular number. It's 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. Right? So get good at adding 1 plus 2 plus 3, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, those are your triangular numbers. And where that is helpful is if somebody says, okay, I'm going to win this game as long as I can get that last checker 8 pips or more, right? How many ways can I roll 8 pips or more? Here's all you do. This is a handy shortcut because you use your hand, okay? That's why I call it handy, okay? So you count 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Right? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's 5 numbers, so the number of escaping numbers is the 5th triangular number. It's, when you want 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, the number of ways of doing it is 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. It's 15 ways where with Monopoly dice, you would get a total of 8 or more. Right? So here's a typical situation, right? If black can get 8 or more, black's got it 1. And so we count 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's 15. And then we get 2 more for the unnatural ways that backgammon would allow you to escape. You can get double 2s, and that would get you past, and double 3s, that would get you past. I'm not adding double 4, 5, or 6, because those were natural ways of getting an 8 or higher, right? So we have the 15 from our triangular numbers, plus 2 more, 17 ways. Isn't that nice? You don't have to just count them individually. It's as easy as 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus low doubles, okay? Double 1s won't get you past them. Okay, now something rather new, okay? A handy method for hitting shots from the bar. We now know how many ways, if you've got a double shot, against the checker, we now know how to quickly count how many ways to hit. But what if one of your checkers is on the bar? That mucks things up a little bit, and sometimes it's confusing to count how many ways you can hit. We're going to end that confusion today. Okay? This is a handy method. Again, I like to use my hands, and this was an idea suggested by Robert Urquhart and Phil Simborg. Okay, so I thank them for sharing this idea with me. Okay, so all right. So here's the situation. White is on the bar. White's got to come in, and the question is how many shots does white have? So notice that white can hit black with 1s and 3s. There'd be 20 ways to do that normally, but white also has to come in. So what's that going to do? Okay? So white enters with 4 numbers, 1s, 2s, 4s, and 5s. 1s, 2s, 4s, and 5s, and hits with 1s and 3s. Okay, now I got a question for you. I'm going to ask you all to vote. How many shots does white have? How many ways can white hit black? If you had to guess whether it was 4, 8, 12, 16, or 20 shots, how many of you would say 4 shots total? Nobody, good. How many would say 8 shots? How many would say 12 shots? 16 shots? 20 shots. Okay, majority was right here. It is 16 shots. And I'm going to show you how to get that instantly. Instantly. Okay? This is the handy formula. If you walk out of here with one other thing besides the rule of 17, here's the next thing, the handy formula. I'll just say it out loud. It's 2EH. 2EH. Where if white can enter from the bar with E open points, like let's say there's a 2-point board, so you've got 4 open points. E would be 4 in that situation. And can hit black's blot or blots with H direct hitting numbers. Like if we're hitting with 1s and 3s, that's 2 hitting numbers. Okay? Then if S is the total number of ways that white can hit black, then S is very approximately 2 times E times H. The number of entering numbers will always be some number between 1 and 5. You can put that on one of your hands. The hitting numbers will be some number between 1 and 5. You can put that on your other hand. Multiply the hands together and double it. And that is approximately, very approximately, the number of ways of hitting. Since I've started talking about this in the last couple months, it's remarkable how often I use this in my games. I'm sure I use this in every match that I play and probably almost every game or two. I mean, this is a remarkably useful formula for being able to quickly approximate, am I going to hit half the time, more than half, less than half, about a third of the time? How many shots am I leaving when I'm hitting loosely in the outer board? Okay? So let's do an example or two. All right. So here, in this example, white enters with 1s, 2s, 4s, and 5s, hits with 1s and 3s. So the number of shots is approximately, okay, I've got 1s, 2s, 4s, and 5s. That's 4 numbers. Hitting with 1s and 3s. We multiply our hands together. That's EH. That's 8. Double that, and we have 16, as you suspected. Okay? Now, I call this the handy formula because you can do this on your hands. One hand, you count the entering numbers, raising one finger for each entering number. On the other hand, you're counting the hitting numbers. Multiply the left hand by the right hand, and then double it. Okay? Caveat. This formula assumes that none of black's blots are in black's inner boards. That is, if you're getting direct shots from the bar, don't use this formula. Just count directly how many ways you can hit inside the board and then add combinations after that. Okay, so this is only, so those we didn't have trouble counting anyway. It was these other situations. All right, so let's do another example. I won't even give you a picture, okay? Suppose white is on the board, black has a 4-point board, so you've got 2 entering numbers. Okay? Black has blots outside the inner board that can be hit with 3 different numbers. Direct 1s, 2s, and 5s, who knows? then white can hit black approximately 2EH ways. 2 ways to enter, 3 ways to hit. 2 times 3 is 6. Double that is 12. That's 12 hitting numbers. That may be more than you thought you were giving when you hit your opponent and put them on a 4-point board. You know, and you had a bunch of loose blocks in your board, but you're giving them maybe 12 numbers if there were. So that's very useful information. Okay. So the math professor in me wants to explain why does this work, and it makes it easier to remember. And can we get an exact answer? Right? I gave you the approximate solution, but you know sometimes you really need it. Hey, is it 16 numbers or is it 17 or is it 18? That could be the difference in a cube decision, right? So the exact formula looks something like this, and I want to give it to you in little pieces because if I gave you the whole thing all at once, you'd have stopped listening minutes ago. Okay? So the exact formula looks like this. It's 2EH minus something and plus something. But that's why it's a good approximation, is often these somethings are like within one of each other. Okay? So they tend to cancel or get pretty close. Okay? That's why, unless you're in a situation where you need the exact information, just go with 2EH. All right? But I'm going to give you 2 more refinements here. The minus something is easy to see. You can get that instantly. The plus something is usually only like 0, 2, or 3 more things. But I'll show you what that is. Okay. So, all right. So here, white enters with 1s, 2s, 4s, and 5s. Hits with 1s and 3s. As we said before, the number of shots is approximately 16. And where does that 16 come from? Where does that 2EH come from? All right? So white is entering. So imagine, again, we have a green die and a red die. And in order to hit, one way of hitting is if you enter with the green die, you know, by getting one of these 4 numbers, and then hitting with the red die, if the red die is one of these 2 numbers, right? And those are 8 ways, E times H ways, of entering with your green and hitting with your red. Similarly, there are 8 ways where you could enter with your red and hit with your green. 8 plus 8 is 16, but notice that one of those numbers, double ones, was counted twice. All right, so there were 16 total. That's where the 2EH comes from. But we have to subtract 1 because that double aces was double counted, literally. Okay, so that's 15 times. Let's do a different example. Suppose instead that we entered with 1s, 3s, 4s, and 5s, and we hit with 1s and 3s. Okay, so how would that change things? And I think this slide is maybe a little messed up, so I'm going to go to the next one. So 1s, 3s, 4s, and 5s. Okay, so that means we can enter with the green die with a 1, 3, 4, and 5. We can hit with a 1 and 3, so that's 8. There's another 8, right? And now when I merge those two, I get 16, but notice there are 4 points of overlap instead of 1. Where did the 4 come from? It came from the fact that of the entering numbers 1, 3, 4, and 5, and the hitting numbers 1 and 3, we had 2 numbers duplicated instead of 1. Right? In the previous chart, it was 1, 2, 4, and 5 versus 1 and 3. There was only 1 duplicated number, aces. But here we have 2 duplicated numbers. So instead of subtracting 1, we subtract 2 squared. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So those have been double counted. So the exact formula is 2EH minus D squared plus something else, where D is how many duplicated numbers. That was numbers that entered and hit. Okay? So, for example, without even a picture, suppose you enter with 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you hit with 3 and 5. Then E is what number? 4. And H is what number? 2. And by the way, what Phil Simborg will tell you to do is don't think of this as 4 and 2. He says, on your hands, actually mentally say 1, 2, 3, 4. Hear those numbers. And on the other hand, say 1, 3. And then you can hear how many numbers were duplicated. Right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 5. I had one duplicated number. So so E was 4, H is 2, and D is 1. Okay, because the number 3 was the duplicated number. And so the number of shots is at least 2EH minus D squared. That's 16 minus 1, which is 15. So the total number of shots is 15 plus something. And that plus something might be 0, it might be 1, it might be 2. The only things you have to add... All right, let's do one more example. Suppose you enter with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you hit with 4 and 5. You've got 5 entering numbers, 2 hitting numbers, and because you mentally said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, you heard 2 duplicated numbers. So what does that give you? What's 2EH? 5 times 2 doubled is 20. What are we subtracting for duplication? 4, 2 squared, to get 16. So there are at least 16 numbers. And the only thing you have to add to that, the something else, is you have to check uncounted doubles, right? That is, numbers that weren't on both entering and hitting, but maybe sometimes doubles does funny things, or fly shots from the bar that weren't counted in your EH calculation. Okay? So like a 1-6 from the bar, a 2-6 from the bar. I've got Ray here. So, and that's usually like it. You're looking at a single fly shot, like a 2-6, 3-4 from the bar, that wasn't counted with the E and H. Okay, so that's stray hits from the checker on the bar. And anyway, I'm not going to, I'll skip in the previous example, we had 16 shots. Then we had to check. We know that double 4 and double 5's hits, those were counted with the 2EH minus D squared. But what we'd have to look at is do double 1, double 2, and double 3 hit. You have to check it, and then look for other strays from the bar. Okay, so I'll leave it at that, because I want to show you some more fun stuff. Okay, handy tips for counting pips. Okay, I may not be the best backgammon player in the room, but I might be the quickest pip counter in the room. Okay, so that's my strength, and I want to show you how to count pips faster, that I think you can put into place right away. And essentially what I am doing, and I've been doing this for about as long as I've been playing backgammon, is what Jack Hussain called cluster counting. All right, and Jack wrote a wonderful article that explains things beautifully, and I'll give you a link to that at the end of the talk, at the end of this. But essentially it's this. I claim that most of the time we're counting pips the wrong way. We tend to count pips vertically. You know, I count the number of checkers on my 6-point, on my 5-point, on my 3-point, that sort of thing. I'd say in most situations, because your backgammon checkers tend to create nice little structures, little primes and blockades, you want to count them horizontally instead of vertically. Okay, that's maybe the key, most important idea, and I'll say a few more things as well. But let's start with some clusters that you should definitely know. Okay, as you probably know, if you have a closed board, the checkers on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, this whole cluster adds up to what? 40, oh, there it is, 42 pips, all right? And by the way, I can't help saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's 21, that's the triangular number, right? Double that is 42, all right? This one shows up all the time, it's 40, right? 42 minus these two. This one shows up all the time. Every match that I count pips, I probably use this as this is a solid 36. Now, is it always exactly this solid? No, maybe I'll have a checker that's over here. And then I'll say, okay, that's my 36 plus 1. It's 37. All right? This is a solid 30. I especially love clusters that end in 0 because they make your mental arithmetic faster. Okay? So there's 30. There's 40. Here's 15 times 3 is 45. Or you might say, some people say, when I look at this, I'm seeing everything 9 checkers averaged on the 5-point. 9 times 5 is 45. 15 times 4 is 60. Okay? So don't count vertically. Don't count 24 plus 20 plus 16. Don't do that. It's 15 times 4, 60. Or 5 times 12, 60. Okay? And again, if you know, this checker were over here, you'd say, okay, that would be 60 plus 2, 62. Okay? Right? In the outer board, okay? Owning 4 checkers here on the 7 and 8 point, that's an instant 30. And that's a good number because it ends in 0. The 8 and 9 structure you see all the time. It's an instant 34. Don't add 16 plus 18. It's an instant 34. No. Okay? So here, let's quickly count white's pips in this position. All right? So here's a position. Here's what I do. Ignore this checker for a moment. I see if this checker were here, I'd have 42. But it's not here, it's here. So what do these checkers add up to? 43. 43. Right? Don't add vertically. 42 plus 1 is 43. All right, plus, sorry, that's me. Plus 1 here, that's 44. I put an asterisk, I'll talk about that in a minute. So that's 44. Plus 2 18s, that's a 36. That's a number worth knowing. Know your multiples of 18. Know your multiples of 13. All right? So that's 36. And that's 80. 80 pips right there. Now, in truth in advertising, I should tell you that when I count these pips, and this will serve your backgammon game well, I don't count this as 1 pip. It is 1 pip. It is 1 pip. The raw pip count is 80. But I'm going to count this checker as if it were 3 pips. Why? Because in practice, this checker is not going to get borne off. The third checker here is not going to get borne off with an ace. It's going to get borne off with a closer to an average number, like a 3. So literally everything, so I would actually count this as an 82. In every pip count formula, I'm counting this position not as an 80, but as an 82. Okay? And in general, anything that's above this line, I count it as if it were 3. All right? So everything up here is counted as 3. You know, all these aces are being taken off with 3s. All these deuces are being taken off with 3s. Not the ones on the bottom. They get taken off with aces and deuces. But everything above it is being taken off with a 3. Okay? So that's very handy and is very useful in terms of estimating your true race. Okay, now, we've all experienced the problem of we've counted our pip count, we count our opponent's pips, and then what happens? We forgot our own pip count. Right? So, we all of us have those senior moments now and then, right? All right, so let me give you a handy tip, again, handy, for holding on to the pip count, okay? And this was something I learned when my daughters taught me American Sign Language. So on a single hand, you can hold all the numbers from 0 to 9. It's obviously you can go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, but using sign language with what I call the rule of thumb, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is American Sign Language. So this is 6, this is 7, this is 8, this is 9. Okay? You might have other things. I saw someone says, oh, why don't you turn the hand the other direction? You know, add 5. I mean, whatever suits you. But I'm using the way that is actually sort of a legitimate way. So 1, 2, 3. Well, actually, sign language. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And so on one hand, you count the tens digit. On the other hand, you count the ones digit. What about the hundreds digit? It's usually 1. You know whether you're counting a position that's 53 pips or 153 pips. So you don't have to worry about the 1, right? So this allows you to count pips. And then what you literally do is you hold onto the pip count. So let's say in this position, we said white has a effective pip count of essential pip count of 82. So on my right hand, you could use your left hand, it's up to you. I go 8, okay, that's 6, 7, 8. On my other hand, on my left hand, I'm holding the 2, right? Sometimes I will hold the 2 face down for the low numbers and face up for the higher numbers. Okay, 8-2. If you watch me play, it might look like I'm going into a yoga pose. Right? And by the way, I was at a tournament earlier this year. I think it might have been the Cherry Blossom tournament in D.C. And I'm watching Michi play a match, and I noticed that he had his hands under the table, and they were like this. Yes, everybody, yes, even the best ones are holding on to the pip count, right? Because you're not allowed to write stuff down, right? I've heard people, they say, well, I'll point to a checker on the 8 point, a checker on the 2 point, but then it sort of restricts your freedom of movement. I like to be able to use my hands as I'm counting the other person's pip count, and I'll never forget it. So I've got 82. What about Black's pip count here? What is Black's pip count here? Okay, did we go through how to count that? No. So I guess I would say, okay, so ignore this checker. If this checker were here, it would be how many? 42. Plus 2 is Black's 44. Plus another 2 is 46. Plus, right?
45.
Did I say that right? So I've got 42, 44, 44, I'm sorry, plus 5 is 49, plus 22 is 71. Okay, so that's my 42 plus 2 plus the checker on the 5 point plus these 22 is 71. So I've held on to the 82. I now counted white has 82, black has 71. I now know, I can now say, okay, Black's down by 11 pips. Okay. What about counting deep checkers? Okay, you've just rolled a big set of doubles. You've decided, am I going to keep contact or break contact? I want to know what the race is. Am I ahead in this race? Am I behind in this race? Okay, this was, to me, the most valuable thing that came out of Cassane's cluster counting argument is this, okay? First of all, I always start counting if I'm white, I'm counting my inner board first. It might seem counterintuitive. A lot of people like to do the heavy stuff first and the light stuff later, but it's the home board that has the creative stuff where you're looking at, I got 33 plus 6 is 39 plus 16 is 55. You know, anything outside there's nothing so creative. So I do this, I count here, I got 33 plus 6 is 39 plus 16 is 55 plus 26 is 81, and now I got the heavy stuff. Okay, don't do this. Don't count 21 plus 21 plus 24, okay? Instead, you say, okay, I've got 3 checkers back there. If they were all on the 5 point, that would be, the 5 point is how many pips away? 20. 3 times 20 is 60. And how far are we away from 3 checkers on the 5 point? 1 plus 1 plus 4. So that's 66 for the back checkers. 3 times 20 plus 1 plus 1 plus 4. That's literally how I would do it. That's a lot easier than adding 42 and then adding 24. You just added 60 plus 6. Okay? Much easier. Okay? So, so that's, as I said, don't count it separately. Count them all at once. Oh, here's another useful thing. Checkers that are at checkers here are how far away? 25, right? Suppose you have a checker that's, you got a checker that's on the bar and a checker here. I count that as 2 times 25, that's 50 minus 1, 49. Okay, so know your checkers on the 20 and your checkers on the 25, and you've got some nice round numbers to work with. Let's see, so, okay, anyway, so here, so if I were counting this position, I've got 33 plus 6 is 39, plus 16 is 55, plus 26 is 81, plus 60 is 141, plus another 6 is 147. What do you do with that 147? Forget the 1. Put 4 on one hand, 7 on the other. Okay? And now you won't forget the 147. And now we can count Black's pips. Okay? So Black, I see 11 times 2 is 22, plus 4 is 26, plus 24 is 50, plus 11 is 61, plus 39 is 100, plus 40, that's 140, plus 2, 142. Okay, so I've held on to the 147. I just counted the 142, and so White's leading by 5. White is behind by 5 pips. All right. Whoops, that was me again. Okay, so For more details on cluster counting, Kassane wrote an excellent article, appeared in the Chicago Point in 1992. You can Google Jack Kassane cluster counting, or here's the link. And by the way, I'm hoping this talk is being recorded, will be online, so you can get that. By the way, I'll take this opportunity to do one short commercial. If you are interested, you might have said, okay, I followed what you were doing, but boy, you added those numbers fast. What are you doing there? If you are interested in improving your general math ability, mental math ability, I wrote this book, Secrets of Mental Math. It's been out for over a dozen years now. It used to be called Mathemagics. And it's sold over 300,000 copies. So a lot of people do like it. And I have some here for sale, for cheap, for autographs. See me after the show. And those of you watching online, I've given autograph copies to Carol Joy Cole, so you can order it from her website. I also have here my newest book, The Magic of Math, Solving for X and Figuring Out Y. That's the think about it. And that's more conceptual math. I also have some video courses produced by the Great Courses. If you prefer so if you go to thegreatcourses.com, or if you're here, you can get them from me. And they are on the secrets of mental math. It comes with 2 DVDs and a book. I have one on the joy of math, which is middle school and high school level math. One on the mathematics of games and puzzles, everything from blackjack and poker to backgammon, Sudoku, Rubik's Cube, the backgammon material.
I have watched it. It's very good.
And we have a satisfied customer in the audience. The backgammon information won't be of use to you here, but basically, in all the lectures, I assume you don't know much about the game and just give you the basics. So I don't want to overdo the backgammon here. But you will learn how to solve the Rubik's Cube in one 45-minute lecture. And an advanced course on discrete mathematics, which is the math that is my research specialty. I've got one new course that's coming out this November 2018 from the Great Courses. It's on math and magic. Mathematical card tricks, number tricks, geometrics. Beautiful, fun stuff. It's just a fun course. So, okay, that's the end of my commercial. Okay, last thing. And Ken, do I have time to do?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. So, last thing I want to talk about is another way of counting pips, or at least determining the difference in the pip count, and it's called the colorless pip count. And this is truly magical. I mean, and I know people who actually apply this. I will confess I'm not an expert user in this because using the methods that I explained to you, I count the pips quickly enough. But when especially in positions where both players have a lot of checkers back, you still want to determine race information. Who's ahead? Who's behind? I don't need to know the exact, whether it's 160 to 180. I just need to know, oh gosh, I'm 20 pips behind in this race. I want to keep contact. Okay. So the idea behind this concept is due to Robert Urquhart again, who I mentioned earlier. Phil Simborg first showed this to me, and this was simplified independently by me and Kit Woolsey. And I think Kit is the fastest at applying this colorless pip count here. So here it goes. Okay, so we saw a few minutes ago that white trails black by 5 pips, right? And we counted white, had 147. We counted black, had 142. I'm going to show you how to find the difference in the pip count in a way that will surprise you, okay? Here's a faster way to see that the difference, just looking at this position, you can very quickly see that white is trailing by 5 pips. And the way you do it is you go colorblind. Pretend you can't tell the difference between white checkers and black checkers, okay? And so, watch. Poof. Okay? Now, watch. Nothing up my sleeve. No sleeves here. Okay? What we're going to do is we're going to first count your whites. The only thing you have to remember is you're white, you're on this side, okay? So you don't know which checkers are white or black anymore. Count the first 15 checkers. So first you have to identify where the 15th checker is. I've got 10 checkers in this board. I've got 5 checkers in this board. There's my 15th checker. Okay? Now, count this side. Count the first 15 checkers. Okay? That's easy to do because we've got these nice clusters, right? I see 36 plus 11 is 47, plus another 16 is 63, plus 3 times 12, 36 is 99. Everyone remember that, okay? This white has 99. Black, all right, so there it is, 99. Hold that on your fingers if you want. Okay, black, what does black do? Well, again, we count. I got a cluster of 30, plus 4 plus 1 is 35, plus 24 is 59, plus 11 is 70, plus 24 is 94. Okay, so white had 99, black has 94. What's the difference in the pip count? 5. The exact difference we had before. And yes, this always works. Isn't that cool? Isn't this absolutely cool? Let me see why it works, right? For the last time, math professor has to come out and say, because this is one that demands proof, because you're going to say, I don't believe this, right? Okay, so, yes.
Before you go into why, can you say how you know whether it's your ahead or behind?
Oh, because this side had 99, that side had 94, so this side was down by 5. 99 to 94, that's a pip difference of 5. So this side, having the higher number, is down by 5 in the race. Okay? If it had been 94 and 99, then this side would have been ahead in the race by 5 pips. Yes?
So you went 15 pips, the count of 15 pips going this way, and on the bottom you went...
Yeah, well, there are 30 checkers, so you won't. Yeah, so the other checkers there. If your opponent has checkers on your bar, you count them as 0 on your side. Zeros are the best numbers to use with mental calculations. Okay? So any of your opponent's checkers, that are on the bar, you count them on your side. They're captured by you on the 0 point. Okay.
You don't include it in your 15 count.
What's that? They're part of the 15. Okay. You count the first 15. Okay. So what's
there's a shortcut here when you have the colors too. Right now you can see that 5 of white's checkers are on the other side of the board, and 5 of black's checkers are on your side of the board, so I don't have to count. I know it's 15-15.
Well, that's true. Well, so we had 10 and 5. We had 10 and 5, so that is 15, right? So, but the first thing I do is I locate the 15th checker, and I might even put my finger on it. Okay, while I do the colorless count, just so, because maybe the 15th checker is here. All right, 15th checker is here. That's a 13 for me, and that's not counted among the 15 over there. All right. Now there are ways of doing it. Woolsey has a way where he'll mentally flick some checkers from the midpoint so as to make 15 and 15 on top and bottom, and then you unflick when you're done. But I won't go into that here. But I will put it in an article. All right. So why does this work? Okay. So here's the essence of the idea. Okay. So here we've got some complicated position. What would happen to the pip count if I swapped this white checker with this black checker? What would happen to the pip count? Well, white would be going from the 1 point to the 11 point. White would be 10 pips closer to home. Black, going from the 11 point to the 1 point, would be 10 pips closer to home. So by making this swap, what happens to the difference in the pip count? Nothing. So I may as well be looking at this position. Poof. 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 Okay, you see that? So I've just swapped that white and black checker. It didn't change the pip difference at all. Here, let's do another group. How about swapping these white checkers with these black checkers? White gains something. I don't even know if you know how much it gained. White gains a bunch. Black gains the same bunch. So the pip difference doesn't change. So I can replace this position with that position. Right? They don't even have to be coming from the same place, like here. Let's look at these. I swapped this group of 3 with that group of 3. This gains something, and if I put If I turned these 3 checkers black and these 3 checkers white, there was 4 pips of progress for white. There was 4 pips of progress for black. Poof. Whoops. So, look what we got here. We haven't, the difference in the pip count never changed, and now we're at 15 to 15 like that. And that's the colorless pip count. Isn't that clever? Damn clever. Okay, so magic, as I like to say. More colorless pip count details. If white has taken off checkers, those obviously count towards the first 15, right, with 0 pips. If black has checkers on the bar, those also count towards the first 15 for white on white's 0 point. Watch for cancellation near the midpoint. Maybe you don't have to add 24 and 24, right, on both sides. Like, oh, got cancellation. If you don't want to add those, don't add them. We're only after a difference anyway. Okay, so I'll give more details on this in an article that I promised to write for the USBGF magazine. Okay, in fact, the response to this talk has been so good that I'm putting together, and I say this publicly, so it'll force me to actually sit down and do this, a series of articles for the USBGF magazine called Math Overboard. Or is it Overboard? But whatever. I'm excited about this. I hope you will too. I want to thank people who definitely made this a better talk. Phil Simbord, Dmitry Obukov, and David Rockwell helped provide some of the technology. Donna Lafferty watched me dress rehearse this a few times. Ben Friesen, we have to thank today for getting this up and running. And anyway, so I really hope you enjoyed this. Thank you very much.
I have a question, Art.
Yeah, Ted.
On the colors pip counting, how would you adjust if you've worn checkers off?
You count those for among your 15. Those are checkers on your 0 point.
Like which 15? How do you count?
On your 15, they're on your 0 point.
If you've taken your checkers off.
If you've taken off checkers,
so you say 2 checkers on 0, and then you count 13 that are remaining.
and they get 12 checkers that are additional, right?
Okay.
So they're 3. If you bore off 3 checkers, those 3 count as nothing, and then you add the first 12 checkers that are on
now I
the board.
understand how you count the 15 checkers.
Yeah.
If you go to YouTube, there's a video that I prepared on colorless counting that illustrates all. And a lot of people respond better to videos than reading. It's all there on YouTube.
That's right. So those that didn't hear, Phil Simborg has a nice description on YouTube of the colorless pip count as well. That's right. So if you've borne off checkers, that's 0 for you. If they've borne off checkers, that's 0 for them. And if you have one of their checkers on the bar, that's on your side as 0. Are 0 for your opponent. It's captured in their territory.